Am I the jerk for holding a grudge with my mom over how she treats my brother and me differently? Am I the jerk for never being able to get past my mom treating me and my brother so differently? Just as the title states, I had a wildly different set of parents than my brother experienced. I grew up in a big church. We went 2 or 3 times a week for services or volunteering for different activities. This was a typical big church known to shame women and girls for having any kind of sexual desires, comparing their purity to chewed gum or a damaged package. With that in mind, my parents taught me that my purity was the most important thing I could maintain for myself. This led to a lot of shame within myself whenever I had perfectly normal sexual thoughts throughout puberty. I remember one specific time when my parents found a note my boyfriend and I were passing, planning to have sex on prom night. Once my mom found it, she took it to the extreme. She called my boyfriend's parents, and we all ended up meeting at church in a small room to talk about why the two of us should not be having sex. That is right. His parents, my boyfriend, and I all sat in a circle talking about sex. It was super awkward, embarrassing, and only added to the shame I still hold as an adult when it comes to sex. Fast forward, I was out of the house, and my brother, who is 7 years younger than me, was now at the age where the sex talk was relevant. I was already feeling upset because my parents let him go out with friends and stay out late when I was never allowed out past 9 or 10. I always received the third degree about who I was with, where I was, and how long I would be there. If someone was there she did not like, or if there was not a good ratio of girls to guys, I could not go. Come Christmas time, I was very shocked to hear my brother received condoms as a gift from our parents. Not only did they never shame him the way they did me, but I also found out they had done more than just gift him protection. They had invited his high school girlfriend to go on vacation with him. The 4 of them had separate rooms, and she was allowed to stay the night whenever she wanted. I tried to ask about it, but at that point I was happily married and had moved out of the house for a while. It still bugs me how they can treat the two of us so differently. When I asked, I only got short answers like, well, he is a boy and it is different for boys. As if he cannot get multiple people pregnant in a year while I, realistically, can only have 1 full-term baby a year. Am I the antagonist for this still bothering me? Are boys truly different, or is she the antagonist? You are not the one at fault. It makes sense to feel hurt and confused by the different standards applied by your parents to you and your brother. Boys aren't different, but misogyny is real. It's a natural response to feel upset when you see such clear disparities in treatment, especially about something so personal. Am I the jerk for not reading my parents' divorce papers? My parents are divorced. I lived with my mother and visited my father every 2 weeks. He had to pay alimony, but sometimes he would pay too little or none. He would pay some back, but not all. We really relied on it since it was for food and rent, and my mother did not yet have a job. When I went to university, my father had to pay me alimony too. I wanted him to continue to transfer the money to my mother since I had my tax and insurance with her. My mother had sued him for the missing alimony and won. He was angry at first, but then happy that she had to pay a lot more tax due to it. Eventually, he found out my bank details and transferred it directly to me. The same thing happened, and he would miss paying. I might be the antagonist because I kept bringing this up quite often, but it was a difficult time for us. He did eventually pay everything back, so I might be too resentful. There are other occasions, though, that worsened our relationship gradually. He would always wish for expensive gifts, like a 700-euro model railway, and in turn, got me nothing. He forgot my birthday, or got me something meaningless, like M&Ms for my 18th birthday. He would also blame me for things like not yet calling my grandmother for her birthday, even though I would have a few hours later. A year ago, he wrote me a message stating that he was fed up with me mentioning this alimony thing again in some other context and blocked me. He told me to go look for other people to exploit and that I should be more thankful that I could go to university and do my job thanks to his support, and that I was very money hungry. I had no way of contacting him, but he eventually wrote to me a few weeks later that he would think about letting me back into his life and about forgiving me when I looked through the divorce papers to finally see the truth. From this first message onwards, I basically stopped writing to him or visiting him. I cried a lot after this. It was like losing my father. I do not think I can ever see him the same as before. I felt really miserable. Looking through the documents feels futile, and every contact with him now makes me feel miserable. I visited a few months after this for his wife's birthday. I wrote down what I wanted to talk about, but wanted to do that after the party in private. Unfortunately, they left for holidays the next day early in the morning, so we never got to talk it out, and he also pretended like nothing had ever happened. Months later, he sent another message blaming me for never writing to him and saying again that if I do not read those documents to see the truth, I will have to live with the consequences. I fear that my point of view is too one-sided, but I also feel like my life is better without him, and I am not truly seeing myself as the bad guy in this. I also do not feel like I exploited my parents. Am I the antagonist? Parents are supposed to take care of their children and see to their best interests, which includes much more than just financial support. It's about teaching, guiding, and being a role model. Unfortunately, many parents forget these responsibilities, leading to complicated relationships with their children. Ultimately, whether to maintain those relationships is a choice each person must make based on their individual experiences and what they think is best for their own lives. Am I the jerk for suggesting we split the inheritance evenly? I am one of 4 sisters, and our father passed away without a will. He owned 2 properties, a house where my sister Noel lives with her family, and a commercial property. We live in Japan. Noel and her husband moved in with our father 16 years ago due to financial issues. As his health declined, she became his primary caregiver, paying no rent or utilities. After his passing, we discovered he had left behind debt, though the mortgage was cleared upon his death. We initially agreed to split the commercial property equally among the 4 of us. Our accountant suggested Noel inherit the house and land to reduce inheritance taxes, given that she had lived there for over 3 years. Noel assured us that, though the house would be in her name for tax purposes, it would remain a family home and we could still use it if needed. We also agreed that income from the commercial property would cover property taxes. I supported this plan but wanted to ensure decisions about the property stayed within the 4 sisters, avoiding complications with husbands and children. I emphasized that their children and husbands would still receive their fair share but would not be involved in decision-making. My sisters disagreed, believing it would simplify things if they could leave their share to their children or husbands. Later, we found out we would not have to pay inheritance tax, so I suggested splitting the house 4 ways, using life insurance to cover taxes. Noel was upset, and Sam sided with Noel, arguing she deserved the house for caring for Dad. I am concerned that if Noel remarries and passes away before her new husband, he might have rights to the house. Noel offered to write a contract stating the house would go to her children, but I argued that if we are using commercial property income for taxes, it is only fair all 4 sisters have a share. This disagreement has caused significant tension, with Noel accusing me of not understanding the situation and insisting we stick to the original plan. When there's no will, things can get really complicated. If Noel gets the house, she shouldn't also get a share of the commercial property to keep things fair. Concerns about her new husband inheriting the house can be resolved with a contract stating it goes to her children. Given that she was the primary caretaker, even if it wasn't much, some recognition in the inheritance seems reasonable. Am I the jerk for not wanting to give away my clothes? I am a 20-year-old female who really loves fashion and clothes. I go out a lot with university friends who also love clothes and fashion. I have a system where I sell things I don't want anymore on Depop and Vinted, which makes room and funds for things I love. I buy a lot of things secondhand too. Anything I've listed to sell, I keep in a cardboard box until it sells. I have my own place and pay bills and rent. I also have hobbies and a social life to fund. I come from a family who has money, but I have worked since I was 17 years old. My family does not pay my university expenses, rent, food, bills, or anything else. I have been staying in my hometown with my family since July. I brought my box of clothes to sell as things sell well over the summer. My mother has a friend called Cass, who has a daughter my age named Ella. Cass was a single mother, and my mother has always felt for Cass because of this. Ella didn't have the upbringing I had. Cass and Ella weren't in poverty, but they were working class, whereas we are maybe upper middle class in the UK. Ella and I have known each other since childhood and had classes together. I hadn't always found her to be a good friend. One example was going out bowling with the girls from our class and not inviting me because she didn't think to. We ended up going down different paths as I moved to London and went to university. She got pregnant by her boyfriend and stayed in our hometown. Her baby's father recently left her for another girl and denies that the baby is his. My mother found out and immediately empathized with her. She invited Ella, her baby, and her mother over for coffee and a catch-up at our house. My mother told me on short notice. I was packing an order when they arrived, so my box of clothes was in the kitchen on a chair. They said they were leaving soon, so I went upstairs to the bathroom. When I came down, nobody was in the living room. I heard them in the kitchen and found Ella with my box of clothes. My mother said that she could have them as I didn't want them. I pointed out politely that I was actually planning on selling them and that some had already been sold, and I was about to pack them. Ella got embarrassed, apologized, and left. As soon as she left, my mother was livid. She pointed out that Ella is a single mother working minimum wage, and times are tough right now for many people. She said I wouldn't understand, as I grew up having lots of things. I pointed out that I bought the clothes with my own money, which I also worked minimum wage for, and I have a right to want to sell them to buy clothes I want. I said she could have them if my mother wanted to contribute to the clothes I wanted to buy, but she said she wasn't willing to. Why do I have to give things away to someone who hasn't cared about me in the past? I want to be clear that I don't dislike Ella, and I understand things must be hard for her, but I don't really want to sacrifice my clothes for her. Am I the one at fault here? You did nothing improper. The clothes belong to you, and you have every right to sell them. It's pretty wild for someone to demand that you give up things you've paid for and already sold. Your mom has no right to give away your property, and it's not relevant what your relationship is with her. Good on you for staying calm with Ella and being assertive in this awkward situation. Am I the jerk for being unsympathetic when addressing issues regarding my niece with my sister-in-law? To start with, my sister-in-law is my niece's stepmother. She and my brother have been married for 2 years. He lost his first wife 3 years ago. My niece was 5 years old when her mother died and is 8 years old now. My brother met my sister-in-law and married her in 3 months. It was fast. None of us met her before the wedding. Concerns were expressed, but he told us he needed to move forward and my niece needed a woman around the house. There are a lot of problems here. My brother is the cause, but he refuses to hear anybody. Some of the issues include my sister-in-law being jealous of my late sister-in-law. My niece does not really like my sister-in-law and is distant with her. My brother, according to my sister-in-law, does not love her and is still in love with his late wife. My brother encourages my sister-in-law and my niece to be a mother-daughter duo and is not listening to his daughter. To be more specific, my sister-in-law is uncomfortable anytime my late sister-in-law is mentioned by anyone. My niece asks questions about her mom, and we answer. We also try to make sure her mom is not a taboo topic of conversation. My sister-in-law interrupts those conversations when they happen and tries to change the subject. It is worse when my brother joins in the conversation about his late wife. She has talked about my brother saying his late wife's name in his sleep, confessing his love for her, and having deep conversations with her while asleep. Some of the things he says have really upset her. This makes her more sensitive to my niece talking about her mom, which is my primary concern. My niece has said my sister-in-law does not like her mom's photos being in the house, or that my niece makes her mom Mother's Day drawings for her grave. She has told my niece to stop mentioning her mom because it hurts her feelings, saying it is not her home anymore. She also took down some of the photos in the house. My brother replaced them with more. My sister-in-law was not happy that my niece was happy to see more photos back. My niece is distant with my sister-in-law and my brother sees it. He sets up mother-daughter dates for them and my niece hates it. He then tries to talk her into giving my sister-in-law a chance, doing it where my sister-in-law can hear, and then hears them discuss missing the late wife and how my niece does not want my sister-in-law around. I took my sister-in-law out to lunch and told her she needs to stop taking these issues out on my niece. She argued that it is hard to be the one loving and nurturing a child while they worship a deceased person. I told her to get over it. My niece's late mother is her mom and will always be her mom, and she cannot change that. I told her kids will love their parents even after they are gone, even if they are young. I told her she has issues with my brother and should address them with him or leave, but to stop putting this on a grieving little girl. My sister-in-law got up and left, but not before telling me I should be showing her more compassion and sympathy given the things she is going through, and that I have no idea what it is like to be unwanted in my own home. Am I the antagonist? You did nothing improper. Your niece lost her mother and should be the one to decide if she wants a mother-daughter relationship with someone else. It sounds like your brother just wants his daughter to have a mother without actually considering her feelings. If the wife knows her husband doesn't love her and your niece doesn't want her around, what is she still doing there? Am I the jerk for reporting the person who tried to break my glasses instead of talking it out? My school put on an event where local celebrities performed their talents such as music and dance. It was a beginning of school year morale booster. Our year starts really early, so a lot of students get grumpy about it. Students in the theater club would participate mostly to help out, but also to have their own 10 seconds of fame. During the show, the participating theater kids were told to choose a friend to give their microphone to so that more students could participate in the performance. My friend, Ally, is in the theater club, and she was instructed to choose someone. She approached me where I was sitting and began outstretching the microphone to me, but at the last moment, she turned and gave it to her other friend, Ella. Maybe it was because I tend to be more reserved, and she thought I did not want to go up there. To an extent, I did not want to, but at the same time, I would probably never get an opportunity like that again. Or maybe Ally was closer with Ella, or maybe Ella had some kind of talent. But Ally did say she would pick me if she got another chance. The performance section of the event ended, and there was an intermission. There would be a vote, and one of the students would win. Many of us got up and went into the lobby. While I was standing off to the side, I saw Ella approach me. We are not friends, so it was a bit weird. Then, she pulled my glasses off of my face, threw them on the ground and kicked them. I was really mad. I had done literally nothing to her. I thought for sure they were broken, and that had been her goal, but somehow, they were not broken. I approached the vice principal, who was one of the busy ladies making the show run. Before I could get a couple of sentences out, she waved me off to the principal. As soon as I mentioned Ella to the principal, she said, "I don't want to hear it." She said that everyone wants a turn to go on stage, but they cannot make up things to make it so. She looked at the glasses that were on my face and said, "Your glasses are perfectly fine, aren't they?" The principal was saying that even if Ella took the glasses off my face, I was making a big deal about nothing, and that if someone really wanted to break a pair of glasses, they would have. In the end, she was not removed from the ballot, but she did not win either. I don't know, am I making a big deal out of nothing? Later on, Ally told me that Ella is dealing with some mental health stuff, and that I was a jerk for reporting her to the principal instead of just talking to her. Now I am wondering if Ally is right, and I am a jerk. Am I the jerk for reporting the girl who tried to break my glasses instead of talking it out? Ella's behavior was downright awful, especially since it was completely unprovoked. It's shocking that the vice principal didn't take the situation seriously. Their job is to protect students and handle incidents like this. Ella is dealing with personal issues, but that doesn't excuse her actions or make her any less of a bully. Both the administrators and Ally are also at fault for their dismissiveness and enabling behavior. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.